Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, The Real Super Sam. Today is another Spider-Man story review and I hope you enjoy. There is a Spider-Man series that began in 2004 called Marvel Knights Spider-Man, and the first 12 issues told one of the edgiest but entertaining and well done Spider-Man adventures ever. The best thing about this is it tells a realistic story with realistic events that could happen if a living superpowered world existed that most Spider-Man stories at the time didn't take the time to dive into, and the relationship between Peter Parker and his side characters at the time here is very well done and still feels like these characters are the same ones, just updated from the first time we see them in the Amazing Spider-Man series. The whole epic story from Mark Millar starts with Spider-Man at the end of a battle against the Green Goblin. The art and writing is spectacular. You feel every hit, almost like you can feel the bones break. After Peter stops him and sends him to the Raft prison, Aunt May gets kidnapped and he can't find her, and Osborn has something to do with it. Having no idea where she is or where to look or what actually happened, he goes to seek help from a bunch of Marvel characters and confronts a bunch of old villains. Through it all, Norman Osborn's plan of putting together the Sinister 12 happens, and Spider-Man, with help from the Black Cat, have to stop all of Osborn's chaos. What a great story. There are countless great little moments where Spider-Man interacts drastically differently with the different characters in different parts of the Marvel Universe he confronts, and it's great to see some lesser villains get something of a spotlight here too, like the Owl. This is a giant thrill ride that uses basically all of Spidey's A-list villains and more, and we see some changes with these characters, like Electro being in a new suit and being super powerful, and having to be shown to be something of a creep. I didn't like that part at the end of issue 2 though. He and the Vulture are working together at the start to betray the Owl, which is why the Owl lied and sent Spidey after those two stole his $20 million, when Spidey thought Vulture and Electro were the ones who kidnapped Aunt May. Anyway, Vulture has his red armor suit here for the first time ever, and he acts a lot more like an animal. Here, Spider-Man's villains actually straight up murder people in cold blood for no reason. Every time that happens, it's shocking, since never before have they been shown to do this. Vulture, besides Green Goblin and maybe Venom, has the best story here. Adrian Toomes is back as the Vulture and stole from the Owl because he wants to help his recently revealed grandson be cured of cancer. The best slow, on-the-ground Spider-Man moment being a street-level superhero moments in these. One of them is when he interacts with the Vulture's grandson's mom, who is stuck working a bad job, but still lets Spider-Man use the restroom and have coffee for free just because she cheers on the good guys, and Spider-Man just put her son's cancer money donor in jail. A great moment is where Vulture basically sees Peter Parker's real face all banged up, and knowing he's Spider-Man gets disappointed and views him as a nobody under that mask, which I think most people who realize Peter Parker is Spider-Man would be shocked like that. Oh, and yes, DL gets his revenge on Electro and Vulture, and it's crazy that after we just read of their giant battles, that one smart scientist in the L bring them screaming and crying to not be tortured. There is another story here, as a rumored new powerful suit is being auctioned off to the underworld, and a mob boss, Mr. Fortunato, is bidding for his son to get it. The suit is actually the Eddie Brock Venom symbiote. Brock is giving it away since he has cancer, and the symbiote will need a new host. Yes, here Eddie Brock is a good guy still, and he will donate all that money to one last good charity thing before he dies. One other moment is Peter Parker's high school reunion, where he meets back up with Liz Allen, and they reminisce about those old high school stories, like when the living brain went crazy, or in the real world where Norman and Harry were goblins and Mark Raxon was the Molten Man, which leads to this funny moment. Suddenly, this new Venom, Angelo Fortunato, finds Peter Parker and fights him in a tense, exciting battle in front of all of his high school mates, secretly. Spider-Man still jokes here, but more mean-spirited words towards this Venom, since he kills for no reason and he only trying to kill Spider-Man to make a name for himself, which makes Spidey rightfully point out that that makes him a loser. After turning invisible, Venom manages to punch Spider-Man through the heart and kill him. Well, actually, that was just an actor trying to get yet another money reward for J. Jonah Jameson, who is giving out one for Spidey's secret identity to be revealed, and Spider-Man sees that happen and he takes no more chances for him to catch his breath afterwards. And this is where a dark, shocking moment happens, when the Venom symbiote leaves Angelo because he was running away from Spider-Man and is a wuss. Although Spidey tries to save him, he still falls flat on the ground, dead on impact, and the symbiote's still out there somewhere. Eddie Brock commits suicide after he gets rid of the symbiote, and did we really need that? Sometimes the writing seems a bit too much. Then we get Peter Parker ending this photo challenge and hilariously makes J. Jonah Jameson believe his own son is the man he's hated forever, Spider-Man. Everything starts to conclude when another old enemy of Spider-Man's, the Scorpion, aka Mac Gargan, he comes up to Peter Parker and tells him everything that's happened, how he's the one who kidnapped Aunt May and why Osborn had him do this. Norman Osborn is doing this all and told Gargan to do all this stuff and told him Spidey's secret identity because the rich people of the world a long time ago created some supervillains to distract and fight the superheroes to stay rich while doing some criminal things. And Osborn originally helped them, then became the Goblin. Norman knows all of this behind the scenes stuff, and now they're going to try and kill him in prison right tonight. So ultimately, to save Aunt May, he has to break Osborn out of jail and save his life. This is why earlier Dr. Octopus was on a mindless rampage. He was tranked right when he broke out of holding, as the big guys were going to use him to mindlessly kill Norman Osborn. Which at the very end, the showdown happens between these two great Spider-Man rogues. Wow, Spider-Man hates Norman Osborn a lot here, just as much if not more than when he's physically fighting Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. Norman acts so superior and snarky, being the smartest man in the room. In fact, he tricks a guard into accidentally killing his wife while in the raft. What a monster. This is probably the most dark thing I like the most in the story. But unfortunately, but luckily for Osborn, Spider-Man breaking him out was at the same time some guards were heading there to kill him. I mean, just look at that jerk. Matt Gargan gets the Venom symbiote instead of wearing the new Scorpion suit Osborn made him and becomes part of the Sinister 12. And the fighting and danger with Gargan in the symbiote is worse than Angelo's, and at times worse than Eddie Brock, and wow, what a great fight. One of the best serious moments is Peter Parker reminiscing of all those who have died around him. I'm glad they showed a short-lived superhero from Untold Tales of Spider-Man Bluebird here, but I think they missed out on showing Bernard Brandt. I did like the slow moments here, like when Spider-Man tries to help a guy fix his car, or my favorite one, when he gives the Vulture's grandson's mother the reward money from Jameson for his son to beat cancer. The last battle took place on the George Washington Bridge, just like in issue 121, but with Mary Jane instead of Gwen Stacy. And there's this great moment here where Peter Parker actually saves Mary Jane, just like how he tried to save Gwen Stacy, but obviously failed. And I just love the whole bridge scene in issue 12. By a miracle, lightning strikes and takes care of Green Goblin and Dr. Octopus, launching them into the river below. And Peter Parker finally figures out where Aunt May is and just barely saves her life. Happy, happy endings. The final panels, if you get into it, get chilling as Gargan laughs in his straitjacket, saying he'll never tell Parker a secret, the new Scorpion suit being auctioned off by the Tinkerer to the underworld. And the last page has a reveal that the Green Goblin has an obsession with Spider-Man, like how Joker has an obsession with Batman, somehow making their hero versus villain relationship better and stronger. So my absolute favorite moment is with the new Venom. Those are perfectly written fights. My favorite is when Peter Parker relates to Antonio. They were both bullied and kicked and etc., but with the great power, he became a monster with it. And Matt Gargan as Venom is great too. He's better than Angelo at least. He is still a very grounded character, especially compared to Osborn. Actually, Peter didn't even know the symbiote was leaving Brock at all until the high school tussle. Also, the Avengers kind of act like a dick to Spidey. Sure, they show up at the end to beat the Sinister 12, but in issue 2, he tried to get help from them at the beginning, and they're like, well, why don't you just reveal your secret identity? And Captain America kind of says that because he has, but then Spider-Man's like, well, all your friends are dead because you were born in, like, 1920 or whatever. And also, I'm pretty sure Tony Stark was director of S.H.I.E.L.D. at the time, so even if they weren't superpowered heroes, they probably wouldn't be attacked just because of that fact. So then Spidey's like, I'm out, because they keep, like, hassling him about it and, like, insulting him and, like, stuff like that. I didn't really like the, ways that a lot of the Avengers are written in this story. I did like the X-Men parts, though. This was a very different Spider-Man story than any before. The stakes were more realistic, and there was deaths everywhere and some gruesome fights. I won't say much, but the Black Cat is like Spider-Man's sidekick in at least a quarter of the 12 issues. She's great and has her own solo goals that tie into Spider-Man's life at the very start. Obviously, it isn't a child-friendly comic, and most of the time it gets really out there, and those are the parts that I really didn't care for or like. There are 5 cool panels in issue 7, I think, where we see a very busy week for Spider-Man having to face Hydro-Man, Sandman, Rhino, the Enforcers, and deal with the runaway Spider-Mobile, and each have a little setup to the fights. But it's really cool to see Hydro-Man here. Actually, Blackie Drago later, the second Vulture, makes a cameo in one panel in issue 10. Matt Gargan was interesting as Venom, and that was probably the biggest thing to come out of here, though it does, I think, get a little bit boring by the time of Dark Avengers, but since he hasn't been the Scorpion for a long time here, it was cool to see he had been the Scorpion for a long time. It was cool to see a new Venom fighting Spider-Man again here, and it being Matt Gargan, who already had a relationship against Spider-Man. And both Gargan and Angelo here ultimately had no regard for innocence, making it harder than ever for Spidey to stop Venom, especially Matt Gargan, since he had the Scorpion mutation and then the Venom symbiote added onto that. This seems to be a very diverse story, like 50% like it and 50% don't like it, but these were all of my thoughts, so with this, hashtag Spider-Man Sunday completed. Thank you all for watching and have a good day.